Hello, everyone. Welcome. Today is Hump Day, Wednesday, November 9th, 2022. I am Solid Blue Sister, and this is My Turn to Talk. Welcome, everyone. Hey, Blood Ninja, welcome. You are number one today. Daddy Hoff, you're number two. Welcome. Brina, you are number three. And I hope all of you guys are having a beautiful day. And anyone listening on any of the other platforms, welcome. It is a beautiful, cool, cloudy day and sunny in California. But it's a good day. Welcome. Can we hold some warmth over here in Jersey, please? Brina, if I can send it to you, I'll send you guys some sunshine if you guys will send us some water. Because even though we did have heavy rain the last 2.5 days, it just wasn't enough. But me, I appreciate anything. Just like 10 degrees. Yeah, I remember cold weather. One reason I moved to California. Hey, Frankie, I didn't see you pop in there. Welcome. Okay, so we are going to get started. Everyone else, as always, will trickle in. So today I want to talk about asking polite questions. When are polite questions necessary, and when are they a waste of time? Okay, what I mean by that is, and we touched on this once before, but I really want to get into it because I think it's kind of funny to me. At the same time, I think sometimes polite questions are a waste of time. Some people think I'm rude when I say that, which I probably am. But I just want to know, when you ask someone a question, do you really mean it? You know, when you say to someone, "Hi, how are you?" Do you really mean it? Um, or is it just force of habit that you're saying it, and a lot of us may not even realize that what we're even saying because we just say it. um I question that. I question that because I think that when you ask someone a question, whether it's a polite question or rude question, whatever type of question it is, you should you should kind of mean it. You know, and there are people who, when they say hi to me, I will literally just stop short of saying, "How are you?" I'll just say, "Hi." I won't say, "How are you?" because some people, and y'all know who I'm talking about, so don't act like y'all y'all don't know some of these people. They will literally tell you how they're doing, and it doesn't turn into, "Oh, I'm fine," or I'm good," or "I'm doing well," or whatever. It turns into a complaint session. It turns into, "Well, this happened, or my husband did this, my wife did this, my kids are doing this, my boss, my job." It turns into this you know session where you're listening to them complain. And there's always that one person that does that. So when you ask a polite question, do you mean it? And Brina says, "How are you?" is second nature at this point. Not that I don't care, but I don't expect them to really tell me. But Brina, let me ask you: do people really tell you? I mean, there are some people that really tell you. Okay, and then you say, "I only do venting sessions with friends, not randoms." But once again, you have those people who will tell you, even if they're not randoms, even if they are friends. At what point, is it that same friend that no matter where you are, no matter what you do, they're going to complain about something? Um, if you say, "Hey, do you want to go to the beach?" Well, no, I don't want to go to the beach because the last time, we went to the beach, then this happened. And I got sunburned, and then I tripped and I fell, and I got a ticket. And I mean, it's like, they're that person. I know you're laughing, but y'all know what what I'm talking about. But at the same time, I think polite questions are important. If you are um, meeting someone for the first time, maybe you are breaking the ice to say, "Hi, how are you?" But is that really, um, if you're meeting someone for the first time and you really genuinely want to meet this person? I know that "how are you" is second nature, but is there another question that you can ask someone that will be more, not so second nature-ish? if that makes sense. Crucible, welcome. I mean, and Brina's like so aware, and yep. So for me, I have really gotten into the habit, and some people may know I'm doing this, some people may not, but I've really gotten into the habit of saying, when I say "how are you," I truly mean it. And for some people, I'm just like, "Hey." See, Brina says, like Blunt said, you have to sincerely mean it if you ask. And again, the polite questions. Do you sincerely mean those so-called polite questions? Um, you know, I'm not going to ask you, "How is your mother doing?" if I really don't care. And I understand that people do ask questions, like if you have that, if you have a friend and you guys both know that person well, but you don't really know each other, and they say, "I'll be right back," and you two are kind of like standing there or whatever. I understand that you're doing those filler, chit chat, whatever. But in terms of, again, polite questions, um, do most people mean them? And can you guys actually say, um, that at some point when you've asked a question that you really didn't care what the answer was? So that's what I mean by, are they necessary or are they a waste of time? Because you have some people who you ask a question to, and they may be giving you an answer, and you're not interested, and you're not even listening. You're not even listening to what they're even saying, to what their answer is. And vice versa. Somebody may ask you a question, and they're not listening. Some people you tune out for various reasons. Um, you know, uh, but again, it comes down to that polite question. So, okay, guys, I am done. You got anybody want to push back on me? Agree with me? Tell me I'm wrong, I'm rude, whatever you guys want to tell me. Anybody? 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 No? Okay, then I will then I will keep going. So, but one thing that I did want to tell you guys, hold on, let me find it. Okay, here it is. Okay, so um Okay, one part of asking a polite question is to make the other person feel good. Now, this is what someone says. Someone by the name of Susan Hersey. She says that you should make the other person uh, feel good. Do you guys necessarily think that's true? That if you're asking a polite question, that you have to make the other person feel good? Rena says, outside of how are you, which I consider casual at this point, I care about the response I get when asking a personal question to anyone. Okay. So, Brina, have you ever been in a position where someone asked you a question, a polite question, and they weren't really listening, or you knew they weren't really listening? And I guess that kind of goes with anything. I guess that kind of, okay, so Brina says yes. So um I guess that we've all been in a situation where people are talking to us and they're not listening to us, or vice versa. We're not listening to them. I mean, there are people that I tend to tune out, and there are people who tune me out, um, especially with bosses. Yes, I have had some bosses that do not listen. Yes, so, um, but again, I want to come back to, should we, when we're asking questions to people, and even if it's just randoms, as Brina says, um, should you try to make that person feel good? Should you try to should you make that person feel welcome? See, and Brina Blunt is saying yes to Brina's answer. Okay. Um, wait, hold on. Okay, so do you think that asking a polite question can be a rude question? Like you meant it to be a polite question, but it was a rude question. And why do we, in some circumstances, question people anyway? Are our polite questions meant to truly be polite, or are some polite questions nosy ones where, you know, if you see somebody, you see your friend getting in the car, whatever, and you say, "Hey, where are you going?" They say, "I'm going to take care of business." Instead of just leaving it like that, you might say, "Oh, what business are you going to do?" Because I have had people ask me questions where I have said to them, "What business is it of yours?" Because some of their quote unquote polite questions to me are nosy, or borderline rude. So, are some of our polite questions rude? Let's see, or rude or nosy. Brina says, yeah, I blow smoke just to pass the time. Most of the time, it won't hurt. Okay. Brina says, yes, my tone comes off as rude often. Sometimes I don't intend on being mean, but it comes out that way. Okay, tell them to have off politely. Okay, Brina, I'm gonna go back to what you said. I don't intend on being mean, but it comes out that way. All right. I have been accused of this many times, that my delivery sometimes, is like, well, it's not what you said, it's how you said it, and um, I find that kind of funny sometimes, because for me, and this is just me personally, I cannot speak for anyone else. When I'm telling people things, or I'm saying things to people, if I'm trying to get a point across, a lot of times I'm fully aware of how I'm saying things, but sometimes you have to go there with some people. Sometimes, um, you may not intend it that way, but actually you really do. So, Brina, are we always aware of our tone? And then she says, yes, sometimes I'll run back a conversation in my mind and feel bad. Okay. Um, but then you said, tell them to F off politely. But what if some people don't get that politeness? So, you're telling someone to, to go away in a polite way. But what if people don't get your politeness and then you have to go there? So I know that you have to be polite sometimes, but when is politeness a waste of time? When do you have to go there? Let's see. I mean, hold on, Crucible. I didn't catch you there. Hold on. Let's see. There we go. Okay, Brina says, I mean, you can please everybody case by case. Okay, all right. And definitely it definitely would be a case by case. But there we go. But some people, they don't get the politeness, and some people are asking polite questions to be nosy or intrusive or just downright just none of your business. So Crucible, welcome.
Hello, Solid. Yeah, Brina has it right. It's a case by case thing. It depends on the topic and depends on the relationship you have with the person. If this is a person who has a reputation for trying to get up in your business and asking personal and probing questions, then you know pretty much how to deal with that person. You don't necessarily care that much about their feelings because they don't really care that much about yours. But I think most people have a genuine curiosity about other people's lives. Does it border on nosiness? Of course it does. I think we're all nosy to some extent on some level. Um, we mask it as curiosity, but it can be called straight up nosiness. But a lot of people are socially awkward. They say things that they don't mean necessarily, or they are feeling flustered. They're trying to force a conversation. They don't like silence. I've been in a lot of those situations, and you can wind up with some awkward exchanges. And so I think it's tempting to kind of figuratively, slam the window down on somebody's fingers, and you say, "Aha, you're not asking me those questions," and you can overreact a little bit. Like I said, if it's the same person committing the same offense all the time, that's one thing. But if people are genuinely trying to be nice, and you're always looking for the nosiness quotient or somebody crossing the line, and you're always ready to push back, that's a different kind of a problem. So I do think it's a case by case thing, but a lot of people say things that aren't appropriate out of social nervousness, not because they're trying to be rude. And I think that needs to be factored into how you are responding to somebody. I don't ever think F off, politely, if there's a way to do that. But again, I think that only is in a situation where somebody has egregiously and repeatedly, broken the rules, and there's no other way to address it.
Okay, all right. So I agree with some of what you said, Crucible, and some of it I don't. I don't think that you have to be a repeat offender. I think that people, when I think that I do believe that people are socially awkward to a certain degree, and I have been in situations where you're in that awkward silence, but I have also been in a situation. Welcome, Ellie. Welcome, Woody. Welcome, Kimberly Michael, and GP Man, a formal verbal welcome. I have been in situations where it has been an awkward silence, but I've been able to, and again, I'm just speaking about me, I've been able to turn an awkward silence into where it's not awkward, or it's not awkward for me. I do believe that when you meet people, there are just some questions that you just shouldn't ask. I have had people, I mean, some of my friends where um, they've seen me come out of a store with a lot of bags, and you know, one particular person, she's literally going into my bag. What did you buy? Um, that's not a polite question to me. That's being rude. It's especially when you're physically, making when you're physically making the attempt of looking in someone's bag. Um, but at the same time, I do believe that you do ask questions to get to know people. Um, and, they'll ask you questions to get to know you. But for me personally, I am not someone who's always looking for the, oh my God, you are being rude. But I do believe that there is a line that people should not cross, be they your friends or as Drina says, your randoms. Let's see. You guys are saying hello to each other. Hello, hello. Okay. So, Crucible, you want to push back, or you want to add anything else, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think some people are just very private, and I think in those kinds of situations, you're going to react the way your personality tells you to react. But I'm a believer in kind of pick your battles. You can't go to the mat on everything. It's exhausting, and you create very acrimonious relationships that way. But for me personally, let's just take your shopping example. I mean, that would be one of those things where I would just be kind of like bemused and say, "Is find anything in there you like, you can keep it." You can sort of get your point across without really. Personally, if somebody wants to go through my bag after I've been shopping, go for it. It'd be the most boring 15 seconds of your life, but have at it. So to me, that would not be where I would call somebody out and say, "Well, what do you mean? What did I buy?" That's none of your business, kind of a thing. It would seem to be a fairly innocuous comment that you could diffuse pretty easily without getting into a back and forth. So I think we got to pick our spots. That's all.
Okay. And again, I'm going to push back on that, because I don't think for that particular thing, I'm not looking for a battle, but I do believe that people, whether it's innocent, whatever, I could have something in my bag that, you may not care, but I may have something in my bag that is private. Somebody else may have something in their bag that's private, or embarrassing, so I'm just saying, you can't assume. So, but again, that's just me. So, so again, I'm coming back to the polite questions. Do we ask questions? And I'm going back to the hi, how are you? And I know it's second nature for a lot of people, but do you truly mean it? And do you really care? Or if it's just something that you just say and you're just moving on. Okay, Ellie says, I carry a knife, might be frightening. Well, see? Okay, Crucible.
Yeah, I think that "how are you" thing is a very reflexive, subconscious thing that is a substitute really for just like hello. I mean, we've all said it thousands, if not millions of times in situations where we didn't give a damn how the other person was doing. It wasn't like we didn't care about them, but at that particular moment, when I pass somebody on the street or I see a friend of mine, I say, "Well, how's it going?" What do you mean by how's it going? I mean, you hope they don't tell you how it's going, but a lot of people will. But you don't really want them to tell you how it's going, and they know you don't want them to tell you how it's going. It's a salutation, it's a simple greeting. I think the words, we get too literal with the words. How are you? How's it going? How are you doing? Nobody really expects to have an exchange about that. It's just a way of acknowledging the other person. If that is a really close relationship, I mean, we all have different relationships where you stop somebody and you really genuinely want to know how they're doing. I mean, that's a different situation. But if it's just a standard rank and file exchange between people, hundreds of times a day, yeah, I don't think anybody really asks sincerely, and I don't think the response is expected or is delivered most of the time. It's just a hello.
Okay. All right. And as we said before you came on, um, that there are some people who will tell you how they are, and it'll turn into more of a complaint thing than anything else. Um, let's see. Woody says, "Salad. Everything in my bag is private. Pardon my language, but it's not your effing bag. My bag. That's a ridiculous thing that I couldn't even imagine somebody trying to do other than maybe my wife." Woody, people today will do some of anything. And people think that, um, like Crucible said, that some things just let it pass. Pick your battles. I don't know if I would necessarily use that word, pick your battle, because going through somebody's bag, I'm not trying to pick a battle, or somebody says something, whatever, not trying to pick a battle. But people have done things where it literally is not their business. I mean, what if, once again, a lot of things are not people's business. And I think that people have gotten to the point where, and I know I'm changing the topic some here. I think people have gotten to the point where some people are just so rude now that, that people are just rude, that they think anything goes, that you're supposed to just turn the other cheek for everything. And we've become a society where people will say anything to anybody, and we're just supposed to, oh, it's not that big of a deal, let it go. Well, what may not be a big of a deal for you may be a big of a deal for me. And if that person is consistently going around saying things or doing things that they shouldn't, again, just like that bully at school or at work, instead of just ignoring them, maybe they need to be put in their place so they don't do it again. But again, that's just me. Let's see. Ellie says, "Brina, I should protect myself in this chaos." GP says, "Many women over here carry guns in their purse." Ellie says, "I hear you." Or Brina says, "I hear you. Unfortunate, but sometimes necessary." Woody Bush says, "I guess it's why I live in the middle of nowhere, where I can choose to not to have to interact with majority of people." Woody, I totally get you. Welcome, Mistress Elisa. So, I mean, when is being polite? I mean, when is it not necessary? When do you have to maybe start being rude to counteract rude? Let's see. Hello, glad to be here. Well, welcome. Let's see, nice to see you here. Okay, so when do you have to be rude to counteract rude, or do you think that being rude should never be an option? That if people are being rude or their polite questions are nosy, whatever. Because honestly, I don't care what people do. I don't care where you went shopping. I don't care what you have in your bag. If you want to share it with me, share it with me. If you don't. But at the same time, if you see me walking out the store, whatever, in my bag, don't ask me. I'm one of those people, when I go to the market, since we have to bring our own bags now, I bring my own bag, because I don't want to carry my stuff out. My stuff is my stuff and my business. So, Crucible. Let's see, Brina says, be polite up to a point and then you might have to say something. I'm gonna come back to that,
Well,
Brina.
I think, rude is, it would seem like rude would be a universal standard. Everybody knows what rude is, and there's certain rude behaviors that everybody does recognize. But rude is like a lot of things in the eye of the beholder. And I think where you cross the line, I'm willing to forgive a lot because I try not to be an uptight person. I try not to get hacked off about things that really don't matter. That was what I meant by the pick the battles thing. You're not battling per se, but you're making a decision to engage or not engage at that time. But where I would probably draw some hard lines as far as rules goes is if you're embarrassing somebody, if there are other people around, if you're asking super ultra personal questions that clearly would be embarrassing no matter how you answered it. Like I said, depending on who else is in the room. So I'm willing to forgive the innocuous rudeness where people don't really know what they're saying or doing. But when you know there's something behind it, and you know that there's maybe a purpose, then I think then it's okay to push back or f off politely, because now people have crossed, in my mind, they've crossed an obvious line. Other people have other lines that are crossed sooner. It's a very individual type of thing, but that would be my criteria. If you're going to start embarrassing people, then that's where I got to speak up.
Okay, all right. Ellie says, asking about people's income can be counted as being rude. That this is true. And Brina says, be polite up to a point, and then you might have to say something. Okay, so I do believe that some people are rude, and that's just the way they are, and they truly don't think that they are being rude. There are people who are, their rudeness, has something behind it. Absolutely. Um, but Brina, when you say be polite up to a point, what is that point? What is that point for you? I mean, when does someone cross the line with you? When has someone gone too far? Because for me, just asking a rude question, you know, that's no. I'm sorry, because again, I truly believe that most people know when they're being rude, but I also believe that there are some people who, because you know they've always been like that, and no one ever called them out. That's just, and I hate to say that's just the way they are, because I think that's an excuse for people. When you say that's just the way that they are, um, you know, to allow someone to be rude, I think that people, like people who are mean, I think you have some people who have been mean their in entire life, and they don't know anything else, so they don't think that it's a big deal. I think the same thing with people who are rude. I think that there are people who have just been rude for so long, they truly don't think that there's anything wrong until somebody pushes back. Hey, D, welcome. Crucible, you want to make a comment?
Yeah, you make a good point. Depending on how you grew up, we've all, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us have been around families and people who have a certain dynamic about the way they speak to each other. There's nothing off limits. There are no sacred cows. Everything is right out in the open, and there are no, so and that's fine if that's how you want to run your family unit and your household and everything, and people are okay with blunt questions or rude questions, then that's what you've decided to do there. But when you get out into the rest of the world, that tends to spill over because that's your frame of reference. And a lot of people, like you're right, they don't know that they're being rude. That's what they grew up with. It seems normal. No one's ever pushed back. In fact, they've laughed at it. They've gotten positive feedback for it from their siblings and their parents. And now they get out in the world and they realize, okay, not everybody responds that way, and they're caught off guard. Like, well, what are you talking about? Well, I didn't mean anything by it. And they genuinely, may not know what you're talking about. So, depending on what was okay growing up, I think we all have our own personal things behind four walls. But when we get out with the rest of the world, we have to do a better job of adapting. But if you didn't learn that anyplace and no one's ever called you on it, until you get out in the world and now people are pushing back. It may be a bumpy ride for a while because you don't understand where they're coming from until once after a while you realize, okay, I grew up in a unique situation that doesn't necessarily translate very well to the rest of the world. And people who are paying attention will adjust, and people who aren't won't.
Okay. All right. All right. So, so having said that, this is where I say, don't you think people need to be called out? You need to call out that bad behavior. Crucible.
I agree with you, but it's like, I'm not sure this is going to be a good analogy or not, but it's like, your friends are raising their kids, and you see how they're raising them, and you don't agree with the disciplining, you don't agree with a lot of things that are happening, and you think to yourself, I wouldn't do it that way with my kids, and so on and so forth. And now maybe it's a few years later, and maybe you're coaching a little league team, or you're coaching a volleyball team, or whatever it is, and you've got one of those kids on your team, and you've sort of watched this kid grow up, and you've seen his parents interact with him and her, and you don't approve of it, and now you've got them to deal with, and you're seeing the same behavior and everything, and you realize, I can't correct 12 years or 14 years or whatever of certain type of learned behavior. I'm just the coach, or I'm just somebody's friend. So all that accrued rudeness or that kind of rude behavior is not fixable. I shouldn't say it's not fixable, but it's very difficult for a person who's not your parent to suddenly start trying to teach them principles and things that they have no familiarity with. So they're going to lash back at you and go, now you're the problem. My manager hates me. You're a jerk, whatever the case may be. So there's a point at which you kind of go, okay, I've seen this coming for a while now, and I can call the kid out. I can say, don't do that, but are they going to learn? Do they know what I'm even talking about? So I think you got to catch this stuff early. Otherwise, you wind up with some antisocial people out there who genuinely have a frame of reference that's very different from a lot of other people's, and they don't know what you're talking about. So yeah, I agree. Call them on it, but you got to call them on it sooner than later.
Okay. All right. And I say call them on it when it happens.
I agree.
I'm not one. So, when you say pick your battles, I don't think anything is a battle. I will call someone out, and people, have called me out, and that's fine. But I believe that some people, you need to call them out sooner than later, because if you like, oh, we just let it go, just let it go. Well, maybe you're letting it go this time, but maybe 20 other people before they got to you let it go, and this person's still doing what they're doing. Ellie says, I guess we should treat people as they treat us. If the person's rude, being polite is not necessary anymore. That's a good point. Ellie says, I would get abusive. I don't like friends who are available only in case of needing us or looking for benefits from us. I agree 100%, Ellie. So again, is it different from when some people are asking the polite, nosy questions? Is it different when it's coming from, and Brina, I love that term. I love that term, random. I'm going to start using it. So I'm taking Brina's term here. Is it different if it's a random person or if it's coming from a friend or a family member? But either way, it bugs you. Are you giving your family members slack because they're your family, but at the same time, they're still being rude and they should be called out on it? Is it the same as if it's your friend or if it's a random person? Just because that random person did it and you didn't like it and you put them in their place, or you told them, why not tell your sister, brother, mother, father, cousin, niece, nephew, whatever, or tell your bestie? Especially if it's something that irks you. Is there a difference? Let's see. Be polite up to a point. Then you have to say something. Brina says. Let's see. I'm sorry, my chat jumped here. Okay, GP says I have a 20-piece McNuggets, and you want to get some without asking. I'll chew you out every time. GP. All right. Can we talk about that for a moment, y'all? Okay, so I used to work at this telecom company way back when. And there was this one particular person who, if I was eating lunch at my desk or if I went to the break room to eat, and he did this to everybody. And he did it to me one time, and he attempted to do it a second time, but the first time, you know, I knocked his hand away, asked him what the hell is wrong with you. And the second time that he did it, I kind of made a scene. And he told me that, well, you didn't have to do that, whatever. But I did. He had a habit of, if you're sitting there eating some French fries or something, that he's putting his hand into your food, and he's, well, let me just take a fry. Let me take, well, first of all, me being a germaphobe, a lifelong germaphobe, I don't want your hands anywhere near my food, period, washed or unwashed, number one. Number two, just to go into somebody, it's funny, but it's not funny, is actually rude. And whenever he did that to other people, they're looking at him like, oh, but they never said anything. And I was the one that said something. And then, but he told me, well, you didn't have to, do that. You didn't have to be so loud. Well, yeah, I did. But he didn't do it to me anymore. But he continued to do it to other people. So, yes, Brenda, I did smack the hand, and I smacked it not with my hand. I had like my pen, because I was at my desk the second time that he tried it, and I, poked his hand with a pen, and I know that it hurt, but damn, this is my food, so, so GP, I totally get it. When you take something without asking, and whether it's your food or anything else, don't take something without asking. If I want to borrow something, if I want to, I will ask. I will always ask. Then again, that's how I was raised. But at the same time, some things are just common sense. Whether you were raised like that or not, some things are just common sense. Ellie says, never trust to nosy friends. Nosy are jealous and always envious about your achievements. They can't control their jealousy. That's why they are always looking for detailed facts about you. I agree with that up to a point, Ellie. I don't think that nosy friends are jealous. I think that some nosy friends are just nosy. So some people may be jealous, but I think a lot of people are just downright nosy. So welcome, Mr. T. So anybody want to comment, or anybody have those friends who dip into the food and, as Brina says, smack the hand, or, can you ask?
Yeah, that's I've never, yeah, that's got to be called immediately. That is just so out of line. I'm a pretty let live person. I try to roll with it, but that's just so egregious and so far out of bounds that you have no choice. And if they continue to do it, then I think everything's on the table. No pun intended, because that's a person who knows no boundaries, physically or otherwise, and they got to be stopped. And it sounds like you stopped him, but sometimes people don't take you seriously until you really put your foot down, maybe on their hand or their head sometimes, but that's what they get. But to your question a couple minutes ago about, is it better or worse to hear something rude from somebody that you know, somebody as a family member or somebody you're close to, or a perfect stranger? Now, to me, this is my opinion. Most of us know deep down what our flaws are, what we need to work on. Either it's been pointed out to us before, or we just kind of know it from having lived our lives. And the people close to us will typically know it as well. And so when something comes from someone close to you, it hurts a little bit more because it's more personal, because they're reinforcing your belief already about these things that you have been trying to work on or not been happy with. So it stings a little bit more. When a stranger says something, you can write that off as, he doesn't know me, she doesn't know me, that person's crazy. You discredit what they've said because you say they don't know you, so there's no validity to their comment. But when people who say it, that they do know you, suddenly it hits home and you tend to put more credence into it. That's just me personally. We can blow off comments from strangers and rationalize them, but when people we know hit us, it tends to stick a little bit more.
Okay. Brina says, Ellie, that's the truth. Sad, but good friends are hard to find. Jealousy is a waste of time. Brina, jealousy is so a waste of time. There are so many that, I need to do a show on just stuff that's a waste of time. GP says, having manners is a form of showing respect towards others. Yes, it is. Absolutely. Brina says, that's real bold. Mistress Elisa says, hi, GP. I was listening, but had not scanned the room. I didn't see you. Okay, so Mistress Elisa says, hello to GP. Ellie says, Brina, yes, unfortunately, I have a nosy friend who is jealous. I can feel her vibes around myself. She is always talking about others' lives. Good friends are a treasure. I believe setting boundaries. That is the case with strangers and people I know as well. So again, Mistress Elisa has a point. Do you set boundaries? What type of boundaries do you set with friends? And do those friends accept those boundaries that you have set? Or do they think that we're supposed to be friends? Why do I have to do that? Whatever. Because for me in my life, I have boundaries. And there are things that I don't want people to do. There are things that I don't do with other people. There are things that I would never even imagine doing to people, even my friends. So, what type of boundaries should our friends expect from us? Even our good friends. What type of boundaries should people expect? Whether you're a stranger, whether you're someone in your family, you do have boundaries. When does politeness go out the window and you allow people to cross those boundaries? I believe in setting boundaries. Okay, Minnesota. Yeah, Minnesota, you do know. Sally, are you picky when choosing friends? GP, I will talk to anybody. And I think that I'm able to talk to people and I'm able to be friends with people. But I'm picky when people cross the line with me when they do something that they shouldn't do. If you're rude to me, if you call me out of my name, if you say something nasty about my family, whatever, then we have a problem. So am I picky about choosing friends? No, I'll pretty much give anybody a chance. But if you're someone who, I don't care if you, save the world. I don't care if you were the best person who did this, best person who did this, and you did this for people, you did this for people, but then you were not a nice person, or you said something mean or nasty, or the way your personality was, whatever. Yeah, then I'm getting picky. So I hope that answers your question. Mr. Elisa says, I state my feelings about things that hurt me or that I find disrespectful. I do that too. I let my feelings be known. But then again, sometimes I don't. Sometimes people will say things to me and they think they've gotten a way with it, or they think I didn't pay attention or whatever. Sometimes I won't say anything. Sometimes I'll just like, all right, and I'll just file it back, whatever. But yeah, sometimes I do state things and sometimes I don't. Brina says, Ellie, don't deny yourself those negative vibes you get from her is unproductive. Lisa says, if they do not accept how I feel, then I might need to question whether or not we should be friends. Mr. T says, a true friend should be able to speak into our lives at any moment. We are crossing our own boundaries. Okay, let me read that again. A true friend should be able to speak into our lives at any moment. We are crossing our own boundaries. Mr. T, are you saying that we should allow people into our lives at any moment? And I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. Ellie says, and I'm wary, so I set strong boundaries with friends. I never talk about my relationship or plans. Okay. Correction, if they do not respect, I do not accept. Okay. Brina says, same. I typically like everyone until they give me a reason not to. Ellie says, Brina, yes, sweet, but I can't cut her off. She is so close to me. I just set boundaries with her. Okay. So, interesting comments there. And Crucible, since you're the only one on the panel, do you have any comments you want to make about what I said or what everyone else has said in the chat?
Yeah, boundaries are funny things. If somebody's asked me to sit down right now and make a list of my quote unquote boundaries, whatever that would mean, I would probably come up with a very incomplete list because I don't really have them top of mind. Boundaries are kind of those situational things where like they used to say about pornography, I can't define it, but I know it when I see it. So I might not be able to articulate my boundaries, on the spot, but I can identify somebody crossing the boundary depending on the situation, who else is in the room, what it is that they've said, what my mood is. Some days I may be able to let something roll off my back, and another day, now we're ready to throw hands. So, it does depend on it's a very situational thing, but boundaries are not something I think that are top of mind with people. They deal with them individually on a case by case basis, and there are some people who you are okay with them crossing the boundaries that you wouldn't let another person cross. So you may say, well, that wasn't a boundary for that person. They didn't cross anything because I don't see them the same way. So boundaries can be fluid, unlike borders for countries and things like that. We can be fluid in how we apply boundaries, and we can make exceptions to people. So I think it's a hard thing to articulate, but you know when it's happening.
Okay. All right. Hold on, Mr. Salisa, you want to come up? One moment. Let me just go through these comments first. Mr. Chi says, not strangers, but our close friends, the ones that we share our lives with. I think they should be able to speak into our lives about crossing boundaries or maybe boundaries that we have crossed. Ellie says, I got hurt from a close friend. That's why I'm pessimistic. She's talked behind my back after our friendship was over. Crazy Lady says, I always ask too many questions. And a formal welcome to Crazy Lady, or verbal welcome, Crazy Lady, Motorcycle Life, and Shy Lady. So, Mrs. Elisa, welcome.
Hi, thank you. I have never heard of your show before, but I do appreciate it. So, hello, Solid Blue Sister.
Hello.
I just wanted to talk a little bit, and I couldn't find my headphones, so I don't know if I have an echo. Do I?
No.
Okay, good, good. Well, the thing for me about boundaries, and I agree with you totally, Crucible, that and I love the porn analogy. That was a good one. It really is hard to sit down and go, what are my boundaries? But I connect my boundaries to feelings. So if I feel unsafe, if I feel attacked, if I am starting to feel negative in some way, that's not a learning opportunity or, something that I can learn from, then that's something I'm going to try to articulate. I will try to find a way to express to that person, especially if I know them, what it is that they've done that has hurt me or made me feel uncomfortable or made me feel disrespected. If it's a stranger, I'm usually not in the mood to process in that moment, and I do just draw boundaries. Step back, I don't want your grubby fingers in my food. What you're doing is absolutely disrespectful. I tend to just go with the moment if it's a stranger. And then if I think about it and I need to go back and apologize, I'll do that. But for me to just piggyback off of what Crucible was saying, it is hard to just come up with a list of your boundaries, but there are only so many negative human emotions that we can experience. If you're using the least common denominator, it's going to be things like fear and, disrespect, and I don't feel safe or I feel unsafe. And so, with those things, I think it's easy to say to people that I feel attacked when you say things like that to me, and I don't feel good about it. We need to talk about this.
Okay. All right. Um, I want to go back to what Mr. T said when you said not strangers, but our close friends, the one we share our lives with. I think they should be able to speak into our lives about crossing boundaries or maybe boundaries that we have crossed. So, Mr. T, I understand now what you're saying, but I am going to disagree with you because I believe that even with close friends, there are boundaries that you shouldn't cross. um, it's like um, you may be my close friend, but I'm not going to get personal with you or cross that boundary, asking you questions about your husband that may be inappropriate, or ask you about your wife or something that's inappropriate, um, or your finances or something that's going on with your mom or dad. I do believe that there are boundaries that you should know better, that you shouldn't cross, no matter how good of a friend you are. Um, and I think that you are showing your friendship by having that respect, that you're not crossing them. If people want to invite you into that other layer of their life, that's fine. But there are things that I think that we all should have some semblance of privacy, whether it's from our, when people say, "Oh, I tell my husband everything," I tell my wife everything. Yeah, okay, that's fine. But I also question: do they really tell you everything? Are they really telling you everything? And even then, is there just some sense of privacy that everyone should have? Um, just because they're your wife, does that mean that you should go through her purse? Just because she's your husband, or you're her husband, should she go through your wallet? I'm not saying that there's something there to find, but once again, I'm saying, is that a boundary? So I agree with you, but I agree with you to a certain um, extent. Um, let's see. Brenda says, Ellie, that does hurt. I always felt friendships breakups hurt worse than romantic breakups. Ellie says, I have good friends too. She was cool with me. She even talked about marital infidelity, and I guided her to decide. Yes, you are right. Although she did that to me, I'm missing her. Crazy Lady says, I tend to make people feel like I am interrogating. That's the second time you said that, Crazy Lady. Um, that you make people feel like you're interrogating them. Yep, a line is a line. Ellie says, did you talk to Ross? Crazy lady, I never get hurt, but if a person says no, I don't share that, or if what I mean by a question. Okay, so so we talked about a lot today, y'all. Again, going back to that polite question, when do polite questions become rude? We've talked about boundaries, but going back to the beginning, are some polite questions, no matter who they're from, are they rude? Are they nosy? When do you push back? Brina says it's a case by case. Crucible says, pick your battles. Me, I'm like, I have my boundaries. There's some things I share, some things that I don't. I only ask polite questions that I actually want the answer to. I do not say, how are you, to everyone. When I say hi, how are you does not always follow. I'm very conscious of that. And that's something that I have learned to hone over, the years that I've been on this earth. It's just not something that I automatically say to everyone, because for some people, I don't care, and some people I know they will tell me, and their answer is not, oh, I'm fine, whatever. It turns into, as Brina said, it turns into a rant. I don't want to hear it. And I don't do that to other people. If people ask me how I am, good. And I keep on going, even if I'm having a bad day. Everybody doesn't need to hear it. Everybody, they don't want to hear it, whatever. Move on. So, Mrs. Lisa, I'm going to go to you first. Do you have any last words before we wrap this up?
One thing, I can't remember why this came to mind, but I saw a little TikTok video or something, and there was a couple, same-sex couple. The one woman was holding the phone, and the other one, she was holding the phone and recording, and the other one was being kind of slick, like she pulled the phone out and she just started swiping through it. And the woman who was recording said, "Babe, what are you doing?" And the second woman was obviously caught, and she was a little bit embarrassed. And they just kind of laughed. And I thought that response was wonderful, because the first person could have gotten upset and said, "That's my property. That's, you're crossing the line, you this and that, and why don't you trust me?" It could easily have become an argument. But what I saw those two people do in that situation was, the first one understood that the one who was checking the phone had probably been hurt before, and she was a little bit insecure. She didn't seem to go through her phone often, but there was that like love and kind of understanding that although one was kind of breaking the rules, they decided that they weren't going to be upset about it. So I think that boundaries can also be something that's taken in context. Like if you know the person's heart and you understand where they're coming from, where they might be hurt or weak, especially within the context of a relationship, maybe there's a little bit more understanding. And that's it. Thanks for the show, Solid Blue.
Okay, you're welcome. Crucible?
Yeah, I think you mentioned it earlier, Solid. I think what the theme has to be in all these cases, whether it's a stranger or whether it's somebody is, demonstrate some conscientiousness and some respect. If you are going to ask a question to somebody or make a comment to somebody, and you're aware that it might be a little bit of a crossing the line situation, you can certainly preface things with, look, if I'm over the line here, if I'm, please don't understand, but it gives some indication that you might be drifting into some gray areas, so you're a complete clod to the other person. You're kind of acknowledging, I understand that might be sensitive, and if you don't want to talk about that's okay. But you have to read the room. You have to err on the side of caution. And it's hard to do if you're a naturally curious / nosy person. You're going to cross those lines a lot, but eventually, if you err on the side of caution and restraint, maybe over time you'll develop a trust level with these people, with this person, and they will bring you into their confidence. And suddenly, questions that are off limits today or crossing the line today, 2 or 3 years from now, might not be crossing the line, because that person has learned to trust you. They learn that you're a respectful person, and now you're in a different category with them. But I think it's just common sense. I know we don't have a lot of that these days, but just think a little bit before you talk, and the person who's hearing the words also think a little bit before you respond, because not everything is what it appears. But yeah, when there's people being rude, you got to speak up. But anyway, thanks for having me. Good show.
Okay. And I just want to address something that Ellie said. And Ellie, I just want you to know, at the beginning of my show, when at the very beginning during the intro, I asked, I do say I hope people are having a good day and how everyone is, and I truly mean it. When I ask people on the show, whatever, I truly mean it. I do not say what I don't mean, whatever. And when you guys ask me, hey, Sally, how are you, whatever. I am listening to you. I'm paying attention, and I do, I do not mind answering whatever on the show, Ellie. I am fine. I truly want to know how you all are doing. When you all ask me how I'm doing, I thank you very much. So I hope I didn't scare. I hope I didn't scare you all, Ellie. So, but but in my day-to-day life, people who know me, I mean, it's like, they just know that, for certain things, I just don't have, patience. I don't have patience for, people that complain. I don't have patience for people that rant. I don't have I mean, it's like the jealous stuff that you were talking about. I just don't have patience for it. But to sit down and just have a conversation with someone and, just talk to people, I enjoy doing that. If I didn't enjoy doing it, I wouldn't do this show. So, having said that, I want to thank all of you guys for coming. And tomorrow we are going to have DJ Karma Camille on. She's going to do a whole hour of music. So if you guys are familiar with her on TikTok, she is coming to the show, and, I'm excited to have her. If you guys see the show pop up later on this afternoon, we're going to be doing just a test thing. So we're going to be testing. So it's not going to be a show. So if you see the show pop up, that is what we are doing. We're probably going to just be doing it for like 5 or 10 minutes, whatever. But tomorrow's show is Thursday fun and no serious talk, and is going to be a complete music show. DMAC, she will be playing some Isley. I did ask her to play some Isley Brothers. So you've been asking for Isley Brothers, and you guys will get it. You're welcome, Ellie. And because it is going to be a music show, this is not a show that I will be able to publish. So if you guys don't come, you won't hear it. I will not be publishing it, because I do not want to have to deal with the copyrights of all these other platforms trying to upload them, and them telling me that I can't do this. I got to take this out, whatever. So, yeah. So, other than that, you guys enjoy the rest of your day, Crucible, and Mistress Elisa, thank you for popping up. Brina, as always, thank you for your comments and your laughter. Ellie, thank you for popping on. Shy Lady, Crazy Lady, D-Mac, G-Man, Woody Bush, thank you for coming. Frankie, did I miss someone? I know I probably did. Blunt Ninja, all of you guys. Mr. T, thank you all. Thank you all. Minnesota. I'm just going through here real quick. because I do appreciate everyone that comes to the show. So again, if you guys see me pop on later, it's just me doing a test show. But I will be back tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are in the world and go where the wind takes you. And today I'm going to take you guys out with, see, we did a little swing yesterday. You all like that, huh? I'm taking you out with a little bit of country, a bit of country jazz, sort of, kind of, sort of. But this is more on the country side. So enjoy, and I hope to see you tomorrow.
Winter now, under the pressure of life, under the pressure of life, under the pressure of life. Today, tomorrow will be like today. 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 Tomorrow, 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 tomorrow will be like today.
And everyone, enjoy the rest of your day or evening wherever you are in the world. Hope to see you tomorrow. Bye.